Thank you. After serving as the sheriff for a while, he actually resigned because the county had a small issue with being able to pay their sheriff. And at the time, corrections wasn't quite what it is now. The inmates in the jail had to be fed, and so Richard, with his 12 children, 8 of whom were living, was having to feed the inmates. His wife Martha would make dinner and he'd take it to him. He had to feed the inmates and his 8 children without actually getting paid, and he took issue with that, so he took a break from law enforcement and operated as a ferryman and a few other odd jobs around town. His successor was a man by the name of Jesse Tyler, who's also buried in the cemetery. I looked around. Sheriff Tyler was actually killed in a shootout with the one who was known as the wildest of the wild bunch, Kid Curry, at which point Richard was appointed to fill his vacancy. He was sheriff again, and then he was once again a deputy after that, and he'd actually been working for the county for quite a few years off and on until September. What happened on this particular day is there was a robbery which occurred, and then Deputy Westwood and the sheriff at that time arrested the 2 robbers in possession of stolen property outside of town and brought them in and put them in the jail.
Loose change.
What's that?
So it was loose change is what they were actually found with.
That is in fact what they were actually found with, was coins that had been involved in that robbery. That being said, there was
all the men understand you can't talk, and
yes,
you have to stick out your tongue to smear epoxy. So
those suspects were believed to be in possession of a firearm. Richard, as well as the sheriff, both searched them and were unable to locate that firearm. It was a 32 caliber 9-shot revolver. Richard went that night to feed them, and when he went in to feed them, they were in the process of making an escape attempt. They fired 4 shots. 3 of them hit him, including one ball that went through his arm, his left arm, and entered his heart. That's believed to be the fatal shot. And it's believed that he survived 2 to 3 minutes after that. It was probably 15 minutes before he was found, and it was discovered that those 2 prisoners had escaped. They escaped opposite directions. One of them was found the next day. The second one, who was actually the shooter, was found the day after that. Both of them were charged with first-degree homicide and convicted. One of them died in the state hospital in 1969, and the other was eventually paroled. There's some old newspaper articles from that time. Some of them are quite lengthy, but there's a section from one that I found that was written in a local paper following his funeral. It says, an interesting career in public service comes to a close on the death of R.D. Westwood. From the time he arrived in Grant County in 1889, he took an active part in the affairs of the county and bringing law and order to eastern Utah, then sparsely populated, and the haven of outlaws and fugitives who came to this rough and inaccessible region as a hiding out place. Many times, R.D. Westwood, as a sheriff and a special officer, led posses into the desert hills on the trail of outlaws, and many times the long arm of the law was asserted as a result of the courage of this man and others of his type. About the year 1900, when Sheriff Jack Tyler of Grant County and Deputy Jenkins of Uinta County were murdered in the Cook Mountains by a gang of outlaws, Mr. Westwood led a posse after the murderers. He was appointed sheriff to fill out Tyler's term. He also served as deputy sheriff many years after that, and in 1924 was appointed sheriff to succeed Sheriff Heber Murphy. Resigned serving until the first of the year 1927. He then became deputy sheriff and marshal of Moab, which position he held at the time of his death. There's not many of us in law enforcement who can claim to have ever served that many years, especially that many without getting paid.
He got paid for some of them.
On the bottom of the medallion here are the words, "Some give all." And that's very true. Last year, nationwide, there were 165 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. Among them, one of my friends. This year, so far, there's been 22. So, what I would like to do, if we can, right before we put this on, or as the epoxy's starting to set up, probably as we put it on, if we could have a moment of silence in honor of those officers, I would appreciate that as well. Let's go ahead and start that now. Thank you. I'm going to stand here and hold my hand on this for a minute. We let it set enough so we can get the tape on. We do have a requirement to leave a little bit of a gap on it, so I can't push it all the way on and tape it quite yet. But the monument company has to be able to fit their tool behind it to get it off to cut the recess.
Can I add a little bit to your stories?
Please do.
And first of all, thank you for giving his son. And Johnston, Taylor Johnston was my mother. She was married in November of 1929. But some of the stories she told us, and maybe they were just stories that she'd heard, but when he was first deputy sheriff, there wasn't a jail here. And he would bring the prisoners to his home. And Grandma Martha had to crawl under the bed to get dressed. And then she also said that he was a very friendly man, and when he brought dinner in that day, he sat down on the bed to visit with those criminals, and they shot him. And she was always upset about that. And years later, one of my daughters, she's 50 now, when she was in high school, would go down to Mother's, and every year, Mother was writing a letter to the parole board to keep that criminal in jail, not to let the one be paroled. And she would write one every year to the parole board so that he didn't get paroled. And that's when my daughter was in high school, and she's 50 now, so it's been quite a few years. But that's just some of the stories my mom told us.
There's been lots of controversy as to what jail it was. Is it the courthouse now, the jail he was killed in?
That's what I don't know.
That's what I'm beginning to conclude. I got pictures showing in 1909 that the courthouse was there with the jail. And there's old markings down there at the courthouse showing.
That could be it.
And so that's what I'm beginning to kind of prove, is that he was killed right there where the jail is now.
But
Yeah, and Mom said they hid that gun in the pot-bellied stove. So that's why they didn't find it on
I've heard.
There's a story, and one of the magazines, several of these magazines, like the Startling Detective, we've got a story that they wrote about it. It's called Manhunt on the Colorado, but I don't remember what year that book came out. It's been a long time ago. My mother made sure we all had a copy of it. And it was about when they were hunting them down on the Colorado River. And a lot of people from Moab and officers went along to try to find them. That's one of the books that story's in. If you ever look up a Startling Detective book from a long time ago, I should have brought it with me. But there's a story about it in there.
go ahead.
And thank you again for getting this on his headstone.
You
I
want to
just-
say when I volunteered to do it, I did not know that's what I was doing, but I'm happy to do it anyway.
And you're related.
Yes.
Great.
Grandson. So my grandpa is Clyde, who is
Okay.
Russ's brother,
Okay.
Neil's
I
son.
did know Clyde some. got to know him and never really showed him.
Who's your parents?
Main road said that he had a gun hidden behind his belt buckle, strapped down tight. Another story said it was hidden in his boots,
Yeah, that's
and she says it was hidden in Potbelly's skull. So, I guess we don't know.
I thought they was in his boot. I thought obviously they didn't search him.
Out of curiosity, is there anybody else here who's in law enforcement? There's a tradition in law enforcement that we give each other coins for special occasions and kind of a job well done, and sometimes we just trade them like Pokemon cards. But I've got a couple coworkers here with me as well as the sheriff, so I want to give them these challenge coins, which on one side have Sheriff Westwood's badge, and on the other side have his end of watch day and an embossed photo of him. So I want to absolutely, I've got one. But I want to give the current law enforcement who were kind enough to show up today one of those as well.